Hello, and welcome to Vox Solaris. I'm Solaris, and this week we're joined by bounty hunter and fellow space explorer, Rigel Orion. How you doing, Rigel?
Doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. It's a bit chilly this weekend when we're recording, but other than that...
It has been. It has been. Here it was, I think, 80 degrees not like 10 days ago, and now I think it's in the 30s right now.
Yeah, I was looking at
the
I was looking at the space forecast, and out here we use Celsius, and it was but yeah, it was like 30 degrees this past week, and now it's down into the low teens. But I was also looking at, I think it's supposed to go back up, not quite as high, but at least into the 20s Celsius, which is like 70-ish in freedom units. So
that is the seasonal whiplash is just absolutely crazy. Like, I remember this time 10 years ago, I'd be like bundled up in my house, and now it's like, yeah, nice summer weather followed by, oh god, it's winter.
Yeah, I always thought it was just where I used to be, but it seems like everywhere I go, the weather is just so bipolar. Like it's like 1 second it'll be warm, and then it'll be cold, and then it just has to be warm again, and then it's freezing. I don't understand.
Yeah. First week of October where I'm at, there's a large like street food festival for fall, and historically it was always like hot cider. People would be bundled up, and it would be mostly hot foods. And then this year I went, and it's lemon shake-ups, just like straight up frozen lemonade that you can discreetly put vodka into. It's not a fall festival at all now. It's just second summer. Exactly.
Oh man, like that fall festival sounds like a lot of fun. The summer festival, I mean, that sounds fun too, but that's less fun. We already had that. It's time for fall.
Yeah. The problem is it's already so many people, and then when it's hot, just that many people in one area, just the latent humidity is just disgustingly high now.
I hadn't planned to ask this question, but now that we're kind of on the topic, I'm curious. Do you have a favorite season?
It's fall.
Fall.
I will go 100% into like basic white bitch territory. Give me a pumpkin spice latte. Give me like slightly drizzly 50-degree weather. Like any situation where I can put on a light jacket and a scarf, I'm 100% in.
Nice. I can appreciate that. I think if I had to answer, I'd probably go with fall as well. But I was definitely, I will admit, I did used to be one of those negative people that will always make fun of people for the pumpkin spice lattes and you know the other basic stuff. But while I don't particularly like them myself, I've kind of come to the enlightenment of like, you know what, you like it, you have it. Just you do your thing. I don't care anymore.
Honestly, it's like the McDonald's of beverages. No matter where I go, I can order that from any coffee shop. It doesn't have to be a Starbucks or whatever have you locally. If you can order a pumpkin spice latte there, it's going to taste exactly the same no matter where you go. And that's the level of quality that I want in my life.
Yeah, it's nice to have that reassurance.
It's a McDonald's is a McDonald's is a McDonald's unless it's French, and then it's not a McDouble, it's a Royale with cheese.
Perfect. Well, kind of
France, consistent.
important life lessons, I guess. Sorry, France, but kind of to jump back to the introduction part of things, we probably should kind of give people an idea of who you are and kind of how you describe your content.
My content I would describe as accidentally interesting, not because of anything I've done on purpose, but by proxy of better people correcting my mistakes. I strictly mediocre content, but I'm surrounded by funnier people.
So you're like interesting. You're like the magnet that pulls all of the interesting people together. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I 100% play the straight man, and even my own content. I'm would not describe myself as the kooky one, the zany one, but I know who they are, and I have them on speed dial.
Nice.
And if you looking through like my current catalog, most of my stuff generally involves me doing something relatively mundane or me doing something with someone crazy.
I mean,
well, look at Vivi, for example. Playing Red Dead with her, I don't think I've ever had a more harrowing experience in my life in that game. But for some reason, she creates problems.
It's definitely a good combo. I was gonna say it's good to have that balance though of chaos, and I guess if we'll have you represent order in that particular interaction.
Yeah, it's like the dad trying to get everyone onto the same ride at Disney World. Someone has to do it for there to be fun, but the other people are probably going to make more fun.
Yeah, it's good to have people, like I said, it's good to have people like that in the community overall, because I feel like VTubing and kind of just streaming overall is definitely filled with zany characters. You don't exactly see too many straight men out there, so you're a rare breed, which is good to see.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, man, I'm chuckling myself remembering that Red Dead collab. I think I only caught parts of it, but it was the parts that I saw were just. It was painful to watch. Not in like a bad way. It was painful. Just like anytime you would have an idea, you're just like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah, but see, luckily, one of the reasons I like that game in particular is it gives me the tools to correct the actions, literally by tying somebody up, throwing them on the back of the horse, and saying, "No, we're doing the mission now. Come along." Drag them through a pond if need be. Just get them where they need to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Screaming and being drugged behind a horse if need be.
It's good to have those games that allow you to kind of rope people in, so to speak.
Exactly.
But I guess kind of related to that, I mentioned that you're a bounty hunter, and I was a little curious to get kind of into your design inspiration, what kind of. I mean, first thing that comes to my head is like Cowboy Bebop. I don't know if that was an inspiration for you at all.
That is a large inspiration, and it's kind of that was kind of the starting point, was that aesthetic, the late stage, just super advanced, like hyperinflation everywhere, people are broke, like. Who can't relate to that one? And then from there, I wanted to further weaponize those struggles. The character design actually came about as a bit of a joke when I was doing an audition for HoloLive. Because I know they don't take male talents, but shoot your shot, right? And I hadn't done any content creation in a while, so I figured, let's play this out and see how it goes. So the general background lore to begin with was a courier delivering a package, not to Earth, but to a planet named suspiciously close to Earth. Drop off the package, refuel, pick up the next package, and leave. Then get the wrong coordinates and now stuck, because, I mean, Earth doesn't have any like space-going infrastructure that you see in these science fiction shows. Like, you look at Cowboy Bebop and they have those hyper gates.
Right.
If you take a wrong turn and you wind up in the wrong place and you don't have a means of refueling, in that situation, you would be screwed.
Yeah, that's true.
What choice do you have then but try and sell your presence online as a streamer to make money?
Yeah, pretty logical progression.
that was the drunken, like, this is my audition pitch. And then from there, I actually did the audition real face cam because I was a face streamer before years ago, and then I got the idea of, no, I should actually, like, maybe they will open up a branch, or maybe someone else will be hiring. Maybe I should actually look into this. So I actually got on Fiverr, and I hired a couple artists, mostly on the cheap, just for quick, dirty character designs. And I had a lot of things. Briefly, I was going to be the Monopoly Man. Straight up the Monopoly Man.
Oh man, I haven't seen that one before. I mean, that would have been a unique idea.
Exactly. So, but it was right after Cyberpunk came out. Also, I've loved the aesthetic of the Trauma Team guys, and one of the concept artists came back with the full face helmet, and I was like, hold on, we can work with this here, because I did enjoy something about the lack of persona that the Trauma Team medics had, and just. You understand that that's a living person under there, but they are just completely armored up and they look artificial, and I really liked that aesthetic. The kind of the dehumanization. So I feel like a lot of VTubers, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all, but a lot of them go like really heavy into the character, and I kind of wanted to go the complete opposite of that, to the lack of character. So there's not a canonical face under any of this. This is the whole thing. Helmet stays on.
I like that. Yeah. Okay. I think you're right. Where like a lot of them, again, same as you. I don't. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but a lot of people do put like a heavy emphasis on designing like very specific character traits, and like they'll put a scar on to be able to talk about the scar, and tattoos, like very heavy character influences, and you having going the opposite route and being kind of the everyman plays very well into what we were talking about earlier of just being the average one in the group, the one that the viewers can project themselves to, I guess.
Yeah, the most personality here is definitely the poncho, and that's just because the Dollars trilogy with Clint Eastwood is probably like, I won't say it's my favorite series of movies, but everything that I love is very deeply inspired by that. So it's kind of the progenitor to most of my preferred medias. So
yeah, so the person go ahead.
I was saying the pattern on this is like just a straight copy of Clint Eastwood's poncho in that movie. Movies.
Looking at it, yeah, it does seem very, very similar. Like I don't remember his being blue, but just as far as like design and stuff,
no, it was white, but
I don't want to completely rip it off.
No, just so additional fun thing. I don't actually know who made my model in the end. Because I was talking to a friend of mine from another country, and I was talking with, I'm putting up some money aside for this, and she's like, oh, I know plenty of artists. I can find one for you. And I was like, that's fantastic. The problem is those artists only speak her native language, which I do not. So everything has to go through her, and it was funny at times because she's like, yeah, it'll only be like 200,000. I was like, hold on now.
Wait, what?
$200,000, and then no, 200,000 of my dollars. I'm like, oh, that's like $60. Yeah, sold. Done. Deal me in. So I don't know anyone who's really done the work on this, and I was like far too. There's a lot of steps to get revisions in that particular case, because then I have to give it to the person who then has to contact the person, and then she has to translate all this stuff back and forth, and it's like, just get close. I gave him the concept art. I gave him a very basic color palette to work with, and this is what I got. And it's like, yeah, it's better than I can do. I'm sold. Well done.
Nice.
Have a $50,000 tip. I don't understand how the money works here.
I'm giving you $50,000, but don't worry, it's not actually $50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you have a middleman, and then on top of that, there's translation aspects to it. So that definitely would make the process more complex.
Yeah, I honestly don't know exactly how many artists that she worked through. She did a fantastic job. Frankly, I gave her like the basic, hey, you're a better artist than me, and then she really went above and beyond what I expected in terms of like wrangling all these people together.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like everything turned out great. I like the helmet lighting up when you speak. That's a nice little addition. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah,
so.
It wasn't originally going to do that, but then we kind of realized, oh, well, you don't have any emotions, so we can't really do that, and there's a whole menu of like standard character traits, and we gave it to the poor person. And they're like, I can't put anything on this. It goes left, it goes right, it goes up, it goes down. What do you want me to do? And it's like, can you make it light up or something? It's like, sure. Anything else? It's like, no, not really.
Yes.
The poor person that did the rigging is just like completely at a loss on how to make this work.
That's pretty funny, because like, yeah, you don't even have like expressions, because with mine was also kind of a little bit odd, but I made sure to like I literally, when I was talking to people about working on it, I was like, all right, this is going to be a weird request. So just right off the bat, I'm letting you know this is not normal. And I was like, okay, I want a ball with a face. Like, it has no hands, no body. You don't have to do any like of the normal rigging you'd have to do for a body. I literally just want a face. But at least I was able to get expressions done for mine, and I mean, for them it was actually probably just ended up being less work because they didn't have to do the body or anything, but the face is still the same. I did originally want to have it be even more complex, where like there would be like moving skin, I guess, if that makes sense. Like for me it would be like the surface of a star, because you know it's burning and it technically is moving. And I talked to people about trying to get that done, and everybody I talked to was like, I honestly have no idea how to do that. So I was like, eventually we just kind of gave up, and we did the little glows in the background, which ended up turning out pretty well. But yeah, it's funny that the models ended up being non-standard.
Someone did in the process like offered to like give me a gun to wield, and it's like, that sounds like it'll be pretty janky because there's not hand tracking or anything. And then, like, what is it today? VTube Studios is like, by the way, we have hand tracking. I was like, son of a bitch! I should have taken the gun. I
was just gonna say, when you mentioned that, I was like, actually, I think today this update they just added hand tracking, which for me I was like, oh cool, I can't do anything with that. But it's really cool for everybody that is able to do stuff for that. And hey, maybe you can get that gun now.
Really long solar flare coming off the side.
It's true. I could try and get some really weird stuff going on. Like maybe I'll just have like telekinetic hands. I don't know.
The gloved hand from popular video games for like selecting a character. What is it? Smash.
I was thinking of the hand from Smash Bros. Yeah.
Just get one of those.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll see different model ideas in the future. I like this. This is good brainstorming. Welcome to brainstorming with Solaris and Rigel. we do design ideas. But yeah, that's really cool. That like I like the idea of there's no real person behind the mask. There's not a ton of characterization, but still still got the space western flair in there. Which like I said, I mentioned Cowboy Bebop. You mentioned Clint Eastwood. I'm also thinking Firefly. That was another one that came into my head. I don't know if you've watched any of that.
Funny you mentioned that. The shirt and the pants are actually the shirt and pants that Malcolm Reynolds wears in Firefly.
Nice. Yeah, I can kind of see it.
Just blatantly stolen for the color palette.
Just got the perfect mix of like all the good space westerns in there.
Yeah, Brobot and I were actually talking at one point, and we kind of both realized, like, oh wow, like when you really break it down, we're really derived from Joss Whedon works.
Oh man, now I'm just thinking the Joss Whedon VTuber. When's it gonna happen? But that's
what I should incorporate into my act, is the Whedon 2-step.
There you
go. Dialogue saying something's not going to happen, that exact thing happening, and then someone reacting to it.
I was gonna say, then step 3, comedy.
Exactly, like that. I hate that I know that formula now, because every time you watch something like Firefly, you'll see it constantly. It's like a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just step after step after step.
Oh man, don't say that. You're gonna ruin Firefly. No, I'm just kidding. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because I haven't
given you the tools to make your own.
I haven't seen I haven't actually watched Firefly, or I've watched Firefly, but I haven't rewatched it in many years. It's probably been like almost a decade at this point since I've rewatched it.
It's 2 months for me.
2 whole months? Oh man, like what are you doing? Why are you not just constantly rewatching? But yeah, now that I've seen a lot more of Joss Whedon's work, I mean, since then he's done so much more. I feel like rewatching Firefly would be a completely different experience now.
Oh yeah, it's every time I go back to it, maybe once every 2 or 3 years, it's like it's further away from what I liked about it at the time, but I like it more for things that I can appreciate now, especially like now that I just even running basic video editing is like, oh, so that's a neat thing that they've done, or seeing a lot of how special effects are done and whatnot. I can appreciate it more. It's one of those series that really, I think, makes the most sci-fi for not a whole lot of budget comparatively.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially compared to a lot of the sci-fi that's done like these days. Like, I mean, I love The Expanse, but so much has gone into that like it's a completely different ball game than something like Firefly. Which, I mean, considering like there's definitely parts where you can tell it was made on a shoestring budget, but considering what they were able to do, it's still like a fantastic story, fantastic show.
They really showed off like how to get the most out of a dollar.
Yeah,
which for a show about a group of adventurers flying around a spaceship constantly being broke, kind of funny.
I was gonna say, like, that's kind of a nice parallel to the fact that they like never have enough money for what they need to be doing at any given time.
I'm noticing that's a recurring theme in space westerns. Is just nobody has any money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably like this is theories with Solaris, so take this as you will. But my writer's mind thinks it's like something along the lines of you need a justification. You need a strong justification for people to be very like to put their lives on the line. So like them having like you wouldn't have somebody who's rich be a bounty hunter in writing anyway, just because like they have enough money to not need to risk themselves like that. Yeah. So at least that's my first initial thought, but it is still funny to see that like they always kind of end up going down that route of they have no money. Because there's probably other justifications if you really thought about it. I mean, there's more space westerns than I think people realize. Because there's, I mean, at least in anime, I'm thinking there's Cowboy Bebop. There's also Trigun.
Yeah, and they're constantly broke in that one.
Yep. Yes, they are. Firefly, they're constantly broke. I'm trying to think. Are there other space western TV shows? I can't think of any off the top of my head. Or really movies.
Oh, we're missing a very obvious one right now. The Mandalorian.
Ah, yes, true. I think that was actually what made me think. I was like, I feel like I just saw a space western like recently. Why am I not able to remember it? Yes, the Mandalorian has definitely blown up. And I feel like I saw some news about the Mandalorian recently too. I think it might have been.
There's been a lot of it. The Book of Boba Fett was just got a trailer, teaser.
Yeah. Something. I only skim through it because I don't really want to get spoiled. I mean, I don't really look at a lot of stuff that's coming out because I don't want to get spoilers from trailers and stuff. But yeah, it's
Outlaw Star, an anime. That one. That one's another one of the space western vibe.
Another fantastic
one. There's a surprising amount of things that kind of fit into that gunslinger in a spaceship genre.
Yeah, I guess it's not even so much that like the quantity is huge. It's just the fact that I feel like the quality on all of them is very high. Like I can't think of a bad one. Like I love Cowboy Bebop is probably my favorite anime. If I have to pick like a single anime, Trigun like wasn't amazing, but I really enjoy it. Firefly is fantastic. Mandalorian is really well done.
Yeah. Really, Outlaw Star, I think, is the weakest one out of that list.
Yeah, I haven't seen Outlaw Star in longer than a decade.
It came out in '98, so
yeah.
Let's just gloss over that one real quick.
Anyway, I usually ask about games first, but since we're on this topic, I'm curious if there's like a movie or TV show that kind of that really hits you with a wave of nostalgia, or maybe a more dramatic way to put it is that it like drastically changed your interests.
Oh wow. I'm not gonna lie, I was completely unprepared for that question.
We can switch to games too if there's a game that's a little bit easier to think of, because game would be easier for me.
I think it would. Well, game is an easy one actually. And it's one that's been talked about on your program before. But for TV shows, I think it's probably going to be. I think Cowboy Bebop and Firefly are probably the largest influences, because those are the, I think, only TV shows that I really consistently go back and watch for the story of it, not just to have something on in the background. Like those are Those are consistently ones that's like, you know, I want to inspire myself. I'm going to watch something that has inspired me in the past. Those are pretty much the two.
I mean, it makes sense given how much we've talked about it so far. But like I said, that's kind of why I wanted to ask.
Just put a banjo in a spaceship, and I'm happy. That's all I ask. One that works.
What about a spaceship shaped like a banjo?
I'll take it. Close enough.
I'm sure somebody out there has come up with a spaceship design based on a banjo. But
I think Daft Punk did an electric guitar ship. Interstellar 555, I think it was. Yeah, the protagonist for the first half of that has an electric guitar shaped ship. So I'm sure there's a banjo one out there.
Man, talk about stuff I haven't watched in a really long time. I completely forgot about that.
Well, welcome to nostalgia the show. I'll be your guide, reminding you of all of the hits from the 90s and early 2000s.
Oh man, gonna have to.
Do you want to talk about watching Inuyasha on Adult Swim real quick, or just gonna gloss over that one?
Oh, I'd love to talk about Toonami, especially like classic Toonami, like Inuyasha.
Oh, fucking Toonami Tom.
So I'll be totally honest. I'm really glad they brought up Tom, because Tom is probably one of my like biggest inspirations as far as just content that I'd eventually like to put out. And just like Steve Bloom, it's kind of weird to separate both Tom and Steve Bloom because I feel like they're almost the same person at this point. But just the content, like the little videos that he would do between the shows, because I think that's like the biggest. I mean, Toonami obviously has a really big impact in being able and just spreading anime to the West. But I think what a lot of people forget,
it made all of the Western weebs, really.
Yeah,
like obscure internet forums and Toonami. Those are the two like progenitors to our subculture.
Yeah, well, and it's like there were also like conventions. I think is a big part of that as well. But with Toonami specifically, I think what a lot of people forget is the little segments that Tom would do between the shows, where he would like give an inspirational talk, or he would review a video game, or they had like music videos that they would play, which were always like extremely interesting and kind of artsy, and you just don't see that type of content, and you didn't see that type of content then either, really.
No, it was a very unique format, because I mean it cost them money to produce that, and it was taking up ad space.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, it came across as a huge passion project, because why else would you do it? It doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. It's a difficult medium to work with when you're trying to do something in 60 to 90 seconds. And then, I mean, early 2000s animation was still expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean they'd have to buy all the rights from overseas and then put it out, and there's not a lot of there's not a lot of advertisers that would have been interested in those time slots. Maybe that's why they were able to do it, because they just didn't have enough advertisers in the first place. So they're like, we need to fill this time, might as well just do something. But yeah, just the type of content really inspires me.
The little miniseries where the first iteration of Tom died, like that was more gripping than anything that was actually on Toonami that week.
Oh yeah, like Invaders, I think it was called, or something like that. They've done a couple of those, I think, because Tom I think when he finally ended was on like his 4th iteration. Technically speaking, Toonami is actually still around, for anybody that doesn't know. But and Tom and Steve Bloom and them do still do stuff, but it's in a reduced capacity. I think it's only like once a week, because they came back after they got canceled. But anyway, yeah, the classic Toonami. It's funny because I remember Inuyasha, but I definitely didn't watch it like all the way through on Toonami. I didn't actually see the entire series in like one sitting, like or at least from beginning to end, until much later. I know right now, no one actually watched it all the way through on Toonami because it was like over 150 episodes long. And you'd have to wait for it to repeat. And on top of all of that, the series actually never officially ended. It just stopped being produced. And they went back years and years later, and actually finished off the story. It just abruptly ended on a weird note one day, and everyone just thought, oh, I guess it's not out yet. And then you just watch the episodes on repeat for the next 5 years. Never getting the ending. just anime things. I'm pretty sure Bleach is doing like the same thing because Bleach, quote unquote, ended, but they didn't end where the manga ended. And I think I heard recently that they're gonna do the last arc, like I think next year or something. They're gonna pick it up as far as an anime.
See, I want to shit on Bleach for just really bringing the last bit of moisture out of that fucking rag, but One Piece is still going strong, and I don't think that'll end before I'm dead. So,
we're supposedly over halfway through Bleach. I think or not Bleach. One Piece. I haven't personally so going back to the original between the big three. I finished the mangas for Bleach and Naruto. I didn't ever finish the anime. Well, I did technically finish the anime for Bleach, but it got canceled before it technically was supposed to end, so I don't know if I count that one. Right. Naruto Shippuden I didn't finish. And then One Piece, by the time that I started getting like into anime, because like I'd watch Toonami back when I was a young dwarf star, and then I kind of got out of anime. I didn't watch Toonami anymore, and then I kind of got back into it. So I never got back. I never went back and finished Shippuden since I got back into it. And One Piece, by the time I got back into it, was just way too daunting. I don't want to watch 900 episodes of an anime. Like,
I actually know someone who has gotten caught up and keeps up with it week by week, and it's the biggest trip. Just like, I don't think I've ever had something that constant in my life ever.
Yeah, like I've been getting sucked back into Fate Grand Order, and so like I've been doing that like every day, which that's like the most commitment I've had to any one thing other than like my job for the first time.
I have had fruitful careers that have ran a shorter duration than One Piece.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I don't even know what like manga chapter they're on at this point. I mean, like we had the halfway point. I want to say it's One Piece. The manga is like, is it reaching 15 years? I'm sure. I know it's over 10. Like, I don't know what anniversary we're on at this point for One Piece. It's like turning into the Doctor Who of anime and manga. Just never ends. But it's I think it's also one of the few things I can think of that's been consistently good. Like I said, I haven't seen it personally, so I'm talking more from just what I've heard and other people's perceptions of it. But
everyone I know that is caught up is super thrilled with it, and that's good enough for me. They're happy.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't really say anything else about that. I'm not going to follow them. I've never wanted to climb Mount Everest. I've never wanted to catch up to the end of One Piece.
But I mean, it's admirable that you know that. Like, it's good to have that decided. You can move on with your life. Don't have to wonder anymore.
I mean, at a certain point, it's just an equation of man hours.
Yeah, like go ahead.
And not to bash anyone for the investment. By all means, I've wasted time on much stupider things, I'm sure. But it's still quite daunting just to look at it and say, wow, if I wanted to catch up right now, here's the investment.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a fully months-long, if not years-long set plan of like, you're going to watch this many episodes a day or a week or something. And like, it would take, I mean, like you could watch literally one episode a day and it would take you 2.5 years to catch up. Like,
yeah, independently of each other, I like spreadsheets. I use them for everything. I like anime. I watch it occasionally. I'm not at a point in my life where I want to mix the two, and I don't think I ever will be.
Yeah, it's good to set those boundaries. I'm kind of in the same boat. I like organizing data and that kind of stuff, but but then again, I have spent probably more time modding Skyrim at this point than actually playing it. So maybe I don't understand my own values. But
I cannot judge you at all for that. I think I spent about ballpark 18 to 26 hours modding Fallout New Vegas, and I did 3 streams of it. And then
the sacrifices for content creation.
Yep. I have I have achieved what I wanted to do in Fallout, we may move on to other content now.
Yeah, I definitely have, like, thinking about it, I have probably a similar problem as you do with those kind of games, where it's like I go into them thinking I have all these grand ideas for a cool immersive campaign, and then I do like one or two things that I set out to do, and I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of this game.
Yeah, I've mentioned it before in one of your streams in the chat. Skyrim, I can't realistically play that much Skyrim, because the way I like to play Skyrim is you spend 4 hours wandering through the woods, scrounging for just like a scrap of dry wood to keep your fire going so you don't freeze to death. And then a bandit shoots you in the back of the head with a crossbow, and you lose that entire 3 hours of wandering through the woods because it's a hardcore save mode and it only saves when you sleep.
The hardcore survivalist playthroughs. I've never been able to do those for very long either. Like those aren't really my preferred way to play them. That's why I go through so many
followers.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that you have them, like, they can die as well, which I don't usually do.
Yes. So I like things that add new generic ones, because the named ones will be gone within moments.
What's that, an in-depth plot-based character that I can really learn about? Nah, I don't want that. They're going to be dead before I can learn anything about them.
Exactly. I think... Oh, the... what is her name? Lydia. On one of my
like the first house Carl, yeah.
Lydia, I'm like, yeah, very tanky. Pretty great to have. Killed by a dragon not 10 minutes after acquisition on one of my playthroughs. I'm like, oh, that was terrible.
That's pretty funny.
It wasn't supposed to be anything dangerous. It's supposed to be just like a walk from... Because I disable fast travel too, because I'm a masochist.
Sure.
Just walking from Whiterun to my house. It wasn't even that far away, realistically. I think it wasn't even in the next, like, hold. It was just like...
Still in Whiterun hold. It's like down past the watchtower or whatever.
A 10-15 minute jog north. Shouldn't have been a big deal. Right before it starts to get into the snowy area. There's a road and everything. There's that outpost halfway there. But no, like, as soon as I get past the outpost, dragon, gone. There goes all my crap. Because he picked her up and tossed her over a mountain or something. I don't know. Never found the body. Yeah, I'm not bitter at all about that one.
Okay, clearly. Definitely hasn't left a lasting impression on you whatsoever. But it's funny that you say that, because I mean, we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of that game, so I'm sure there's all sorts of stories people could tell about crazy stuff. But it's funny that you mentioned that's kind of how your followers work, because I'm kind of the polar opposite, in the sense that, like, I only really pay attention to followers, at least follower mods, if they actually have, like, in-depth interactions, that kind of stuff, because especially the followers even in vanilla are just like, all of them are the same. They have, like, no characterization whatsoever. So I don't even usually, like, have a follower, because I just don't care about them. I also usually hit them, and, like, with followers, they can't get aggroed on you, but I always hate fighting with allies in Skyrim, because, like, I can't do anything until all of my allies are dead, or I'm just going to get at them pissed at me.
Yeah, I think my problem stems from, before Skyrim, I played a lot of Oblivion, and before that, I can't describe to you, when I say a lot of Morrowind, you're going to be underestimating the numbers here. By far, easily thousands of plural.
The thousands of hours a game.
Ballpark, I'm gonna guess 4 across. Like, I mean, I had it on Xbox, and I got it, like, right as it came out on Xbox, and I didn't even actually ask for it. I came home from school one day, and I think I just had an unpleasant day, and. Then my mom said, hey, why don't you go play outside for a little bit? Don't know why she sent me outside. There's not a damn thing to do outside. I was
just didn't want to deal with you.
And then just propped against the TV. No, she was like, she apparently snuck out of the house, went and picked up a game that she thought I'd like, and it was Morrowind, and it created a lifelong addiction. Because I came back into the house afterwards, and it was propped against the TV, and it was the hardest game I've ever played. Like, Dark Souls fans, you don't know anything until you're a child trying to figure out how Elder Scrolls Morrowind works. I don't know if you've played it.
I have not personally played it. I have seen others play it, and I have a general idea of it. But yeah,
I'll tell you right now, the content creators make it look easy because when you're a child, you don't understand. You hit the button to swing the weapon. You think, oh, the weapon hits the enemy. No, you hit the button, and that initiates a dice roll in the background of the game that you don't see based on your weapon skill, your amount of stamina, and if you're sprinting, your stamina is 0. Like if you're not moving at an asthmatic walk, your stamina is 0. It is a brutal game. I don't know why Bethesda made it. It is a work of art. Hands down. Just years upon years of playing that. Like that, I got that, and it was before Arma. There was Operation Flashpoint. It was Operation Flashpoint and Morrowind. Those were the only games that I played. I would invite friends over, and we would spend like 2 days straight, just like sleeping in shifts, modding these games and showing each other what we did.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I definitely did similar in Oblivion.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I definitely have similar memories with Oblivion, but I never really got into that part with Morrowind.
No, Morrowind was such a brutal game to learn as a child that one of the first mods that I got, which for information, I had to put this mod on a floppy disk at the library, then ride my bike 1.5 miles to get back to my house to put it on the computer, and then hope the files weren't corrupted. And when that one worked, sweet. Tomorrow I'll go to the library for an hour, and I'll find another one. Because my grandma's house did not have internet. And I really shouldn't have said any of this, because Vivi's going to hear this, and she's going to make fun of me for being old again. But
I mean, like, she needs an excuse for that, though.
The struggles were real.
But yeah, that's true modding right there.
Man. Yeah, a Lordsman mod was because it added followers to Morrowind. Mercenaries that you could hire. They had no unique dialogue, but you could give them equipment. They had captains that you could set on patrol routes, and frankly, clearing a dungeon without them when you're young and don't know how the game works, it seemed essential. It seemed like something that was missing from the game. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, you just drink a bunch of stamina potions at the start of combat, then you drink like 5 shots of an alcohol called Sojama and raise your strength to 500. Not a joke, 500. Then just one shot the end game boss. I'm like, who would have thought of that? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh man, that's pretty funny. Yeah, I definitely
arcade game. It's fucking crazy, man.
It's always funny when you have those like random little. I know, like it's actually more of a modern game, but it does have similar like crazy stuff you can do in it. It made me think of in Divinity: Original Sin 2. There's something where you can do where you fill a chest up with literally just infinite amount of weight, and you can actually use telekinesis in that game to throw like random objects, in this case a chest, and its damage is based on the weight. So there's a build where you can literally create a chest of just essentially infinite weight and then throw the chest at people for the entire game, and it is just hilarious and something I never would have figured out on my own. But there's YouTube videos.
I love games like that they make a system. They don't care how the players are going to use the system. They just make it and let you go nuts. And Divinity's a lot like that. If it wasn't an isometric game, I probably would have put 2,000-3,000 hours in Divinity as well, easily.
Yeah, it's like, I think I have a couple hundred in it. It's like, it's funny because I don't usually like isometric games that much. They were never like, I don't hate them or anything, but it's just between like isometric and first-person RPGs or third-person RPGs like Mass Effect and the Bethesda games, I definitely lean more towards the action-oriented ones, but Divinity caught me. I don't know what it was, the story, the characters, or just the gameplay, but it really got me.
It was almost there, but just something about being like looking down on everything going on. It makes me feel very detached from the game. It's not my character. It is a character that I created, but it's not me. I'm up here, obviously. I'm telling it what to do. And it creates that kind of separation that really takes me out of it in the long term.
Maybe it's because I'm a star. I'm used to just like looking down at people. No. but yeah, I can get that. I definitely understand the the buzzword, and especially Bethesda games, immersion factor is not really there, especially if you want to do kind of any kind of role play stuff.
The selling point for Bethesda. I mean, do you think it's fun to have to walk through the woods collecting firewood to not freeze to death, then get shot in the head? No, it's not fun, but it's immersive.
But we do it anyway.
Makes it feel something. Some of the most fun I've had in Fallout 4 was modding the ever-living shit out of that and then hiding 45 minutes after getting out of the vault, hiding in that diner where you meet the drug dealer as a super mutant behemoth walks by. I couldn't kill that thing. I couldn't dream of a way to kill that thing if I tried. I'm pretty sure at that point console commands wouldn't have even killed it. But I felt genuine fear.
It's become sentient.
Yet, and that thing might just one-shot me and just reset all my progress. And that's why I like to play games. I like to feel it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, it's good to know that I've always wondered who the heck they're making these mods for, and it's good to know that those people do actually exist, because like I dabble in it from here and there, but I definitely don't go for that gameplay experience that often.
No, I am an absolute masochist when it comes to just suffering in games.
That's pretty funny. I'm trying to think of times where I definitely had to I've modded Skyrim to points where I've had to hide from higher tier enemies, and that stupid troll on the top of the third of the world or whatever when you're doing the first is become the bane of my existence, because he seems like no matter what mod list I use, I always suck against him. But it's pretty funny. I will say, I remember when I was modding Fallout 4 a ton. I always hated the high graphics mods just because of the fact that they made the bugs get so realistic that it actually skeeved me out. I don't know what it is about rad roaches, man. Just the sounds and looking at them, I just it gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's yes, let's go ahead and add 8K resolution on a cockroach, and then blow that up to 100 times size. Yeah. That's fine.
It's what everybody wants to see. That's pretty funny. So would you say Morrowind is kind of the game that drastically changed your perception on things? Or was there another game before that?
It changed perception, but before that, Final Fantasy Tactics on PlayStation. That's the first time it's I had a PlayStation. I played Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation with my family, for an hour a night, and we'd have fun and eat Ritz crackers with the canned Easy cheese like the lower class peasants that we were. But it wasn't until Final Fantasy Tactics and seeing my stepbrother play that I was like, oh, fuck, video games are awesome.
Wait, this isn't just a family activity?
Exactly. Playing Crash Bandicoot, that was oh, Jeopardy's over. It's time for the Crash Bandicoot hour. No one's super thrilled at that. I mean, it's just something to do to kill the time, and you have fun with it. It's like watching Jeopardy. It's entertaining, but it didn't form a lifelong addiction. Final Fantasy Tactics, though, it's that's the game. It's oh, it's not just one person. It's 5 people. You have a squad. You can name them and everything. You can name them after your friends, and then you could feel bad when your friends died. Stop naming them after your friends because young you wasn't quite ready to deal with that emotional stage yet. And just unlocking the different job classes, the combinations you could make, fantastic stuff. 10 out of 10. And then much later, as I got older, it came out on the PSP, and then I got to see it without the janky translations in it. So it went from being a fun strategy game to, oh wow, this is a massive epic story of corruption in a church and the fundamental corruption of what is essentially an analog of the Catholic faith. That's fascinating. That's great storytelling. Completely lost on younger me, though. I'm just oh, cool, I can name this one after me, and he's dead.
I mean, yeah, that's all that's really important as a wee lad. But I've always wondered if games have just gotten easier, or if I just sucked at games a lot more as a kid. Well, I was thinking about how you playing Morrowind as a kid and Final Fantasy Tactics, and also just the story implications that were also lost on me. Like, I would not have understood Morrowind or even Final Fantasy Tactics. Even a lot of the other games that I played when I was younger.
Young was definitely an idiot.
But you definitely, I don't know, just something different. It feels like games these days, like the main one that I keep thinking of when I think about games played as a young dwarf is the Pokemon series from like then to now. And I didn't like care all that much about the Pokemon story way back in the day. I was just there like, oh, cool monster, let's just collect things. It's the hoarder, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's the original gacha game, just before microtransactions.
But that said, I do, maybe it's just nostalgia, maybe it's the rose-colored glasses, as they say, but I do still feel, even as a kid, I feel like the Pokemon stories were better back in the day.
Oh yeah. I mean, yes and no. I think a lot of it also was back before the internet. Like, you didn't really know the story until you played through it. There were so many urban legends around games back then. Like the little glitches people could do to like access the ship area after the SSN departed. It's like, oh, Mew has to be under this truck. Why else would this truck be here? There was never anything under that truck. That truck was just there for aesthetics. That 3-bit truck was just there to look good. It did nothing. But everyone believed hard enough that it was magical when you got the glitch to work.
Yeah,
and then disappointed when you got nothing.
It's like, what do you mean this truck gave me nothing? Like, I did this glitch perfectly. Why isn't this working? Maybe because the glitch doesn't exist.
And then at the same time, I think there was an event where people actually got the Mew from something else, but that you'd see like pictures on like super grainy like old camera photos of a Game Boy with Mew on. Like, it's out there somewhere. I've been doing it wrong. And then no, they got it from an event in Japan. Like,
it's just a picture.
300 of them, and no one else could get them.
It's just a picture of a Mew, and it's like, this proves it. They don't actually show how you get it in any way. It's a nope. This proves that the glitch is real. But yeah, it is kind of funny to think about. Well, thinking about how the Morrowind, like how you didn't understand it as much. I'm like, it just made me really nostalgic for game guides. I don't know if you ever really ended up buying any of those, but I definitely had like those thick, big, giant books for like, I think Pokemon Emerald, I had one because I got really into that. I think I got one for Halo 2, and it wasn't even so much that I necessarily needed them for these games, but I loved these games so much that like whenever I would be at a bookstore or at a grocery store or something or whatever, I'd see the game guides on the counter. I'd be like, I have to get this. I have to own this. Every piece of content related to these games must be in my hands. Yes.
100%. I remember the Halo 2 guide and the Oblivion guides were one, like, I don't even think those had a cover left by the time I'd read through them so many times. And they did have a lot of wrong information in them that kind of put me off later editions of it, but they also had like really unique stuff that some people just nobody else really caught on to. You said you played Oblivion. Did you see anything about the Goblin Wars in Oblivion?
Oh, it sounds familiar, but I don't remember remember anything like specifically weird.
So all of the Goblin tribes, the named ones, if it just said Goblin, it was worthless. But if they had like a special name like Red Scale or something like that, they would have a totem in their cave. And if you stole the totem without killing their war chief or maybe the shaman, they would send raiding parties out periodically to go recover that. And if you wanted to play some fuck games, you'd take a totem from one tribe and put it in another tribe's cave, just drop it on the ground, and they will path to it. And vice versa, you drop the other totem or other group's totem in a different cave, and they would just fight over these totems constantly, as long as their chieftain was alive. So
that is amazing. Yeah, I didn't
like a whole playthrough that was literally just me watching a giant tug of war between goblin tribes.
Even these days, like I'd never. I mean, I don't go back to Oblivion much these days, but even like that's crazy. I've never seen that before. That's pretty funny. But yeah, somebody figured that out for a game guide. Well, and it's like now we have everything online, so it's not like game guides are really as necessary.
The magic's a little gone now.
But yeah, it definitely doesn't feel quite the same as having that book of this tome of compiled information on this game that you love.
Yeah.
With the Halo 2 one, I remember being really fascinated by the like they had the multiplayer map layouts and the weapon drop locations, and like I realize for like the quote unquote pro players of Halo 2 and the more developed players that like that was really common information, and like that was like a requirement for being good at the multiplayer was memorizing the map drops and everything like that. But as a young Solaris, that was like fascinating to me to like have all this information at the tip of your hands.
I've got the advantage.
I know these drops. I know what they're timed. I know where they are. I've become a god at this game. And then, you know, I proceeded to not be a god at that game.
Yeah, exactly. Someone just comes around the corner and puts 3 BR bursts into your head, and you're just like,
oh, BXR.
Drop on me, but I know this map better than them.
I did not know of the BXR as a young Solaris.
Neither did I.
How did they do that? They're cheating. They're hacking. I always thought it was like hacking or something.
I learned it like years later when Halo 2 servers were like shut down. Just a friend and I were just messing around on multiplayer, and I was like, hold on, what is that weird button combination you're doing?
I remember that day, actually.
Oh, that explains so much. You son of a bitch.
I was kind of in the same boat because at the Halo 2 server shut down, I think sometime after Halo 3 had come out. And I remember at that point I was wiser and older, so I was much better at Halo 3, and a bunch of friends and I learned that Halo 2 was shutting down, so like we all got our copies, and the day it shut down, there were a ton of people playing because like it was like the big thing, go back and play Halo 2 for a day. And I remember being taught the VXR about that day, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not know about this whole time?
Yeah, mine wasn't even such a dramatic thing. It was literally just 2 of us in my room, and I was just one. He held his controller like a troglodyte, using they call it the claw, where you have your index finger and thumb up on the button pad, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Has no one told you how this works? But then he
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen some other weird ones, but yeah, that's
super weird. It apparently works for a lot of games. I just don't understand it.
I always hold my controller the normal way, I guess you could say. Well, telekinetically isn't exactly the normal way, but
the human way, yeah.
Yeah.
Palm, thumbs where they belong, trigger fingers on the triggers. Come on, people. You don't need to be holding it sideways. It's not that big of an advantage. If it is one at all, I think y'all just learned weird.
This has been controller etiquette with Rigel Orion.
I think it's all the N64 kids. You couldn't hold that thing right no matter how you tried.
I don't think there was a right way to hold an N64 controller. It wasn't designed for human hands.
The right way to hold an N64 controller was with your forefinger and thumb holding the cable before you drop it into the trash can. I hated that controller. I still hate that controller. It is worse than the original Xbox brick controller, and that thing weighed 2 pounds and could kill someone.
Oh man,
do you know the one I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. Talk about classic controllers. I'm just thinking now of Mad Catz controllers, which is always a hilarious thing to think about. I don't know if they probably make decent controllers these days, but back then the Mad Catz controllers were controllers that were made by Oompa Loompas in some no-cost factory or something, because they were like the cheapest things you could possibly imagine.
I feel so bad for the people that had to assemble those, because they're like the chemicals that they inhaled soldering those things together. Those were made of such like the cheapest parts. I had a friend had one of those, and he's like, yeah, it lights up on the inside. It's super cool. Never worked for any game we played. Dozens of games, the controller never worked. And then, despite never being used, never being plugged in, one day he goes to try it again, and it doesn't even light up now. It's just like, you paid for a controller-shaped dim light bulb that died after 3 weeks. If you spent $20 more, you'd be fine, and you'd have a real controller.
That's that's pretty funny. I remember. I think the first wireless controller I had. I was an Xbox star, so I didn't have PlayStation. But I think the first wireless controller I ever had for my Xbox was a Mad Catz controller, and it like never worked. I mean, like all Mad Catz products, it never worked. Like could never get connected. It would turn on at least, but it would never just like actually properly function for a full play set like sitting. So for a long time, I thought that just all wireless controllers were crap. And granted, wireless tech was worse back then, but it still would work if you just had a decent thing.
Yeah, it was. I don't understand, frankly, how they were in business, because I don't know a single person that bought a Mad Catz product and was in the least bit satisfied. I don't think they had a repeat customer until maybe like 2015, 2016. Maybe.
I think it might just be the fact that, like, yeah, it never worked properly, but it was so cheap that you could buy like 5 of them for the same price as like one regular normal thing. So it's like if it didn't work, at least you got 4 other tries. I don't know.
Maybe it's the younger brother market. It's just, you plug the controller. Yeah, it's absolutely working. Your player too. Look, you're that one over there. See, blatantly lying on your single player game.
Their entire business model was actually built on hazing. People would buy them purposely to screw over whoever they were playing with. Like I said, I think they're still around. I don't know. I haven't looked up any Mad Catz stuff in quite a while, but
why would you?
Yeah. Good times, good nostalgia. On the
I feel like I'm going to Google it later, and there's going to be a Mad Catz mouse that's literally just left mouse button on both buttons. It doesn't do right click at all.
Then the question is, do you buy it just for the lulz, or?
Well, obviously, you take it to work and you swap somebody's mouse with it, and you just have a good time.
Perfect. We've discovered why they're still in business.
Frank products for everyone you hate.
It's good, yeah. I mean, at a certain point, when you have to pivot your business model, you might as well go into it.
Play to your strengths, guys.
That's pretty funny. And the on the topic of gaming, kind of instead of looking back, is there stuff that you're looking forward to this upcoming year? I mean, I know we've got potentially Starfield next year. If we're talking about Bethesda games.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Starfield. Halo Infinite in December. December what, 7th, 8th, something like that.
Yeah,
that's a big one. Halo was pretty formative in terms of games as well. Not so much as the previous ones, but it was still there. The big one, though. No, I want to say the big one is Halo Infinite. I do wrong. I'm a little excited for Elden Ring, but
yeah, I mean, we just had that gameplay.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, with Dark.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say with Dark Souls, like I never really got into it, but it wasn't even so much a difficulty thing. It's just I hated the control scheme of the first Dark Souls, which kind of ruined the entire franchise for me.
the person I know who plays the claw method, they played Dark Souls with that, and they do perfectly fine. I think that's the Venn diagram right there. That's where it becomes a circle. But no, I'm a little excited for Elden Ring, but more Halo than Elden Ring. I was a complete scrub at Dark Souls. I was the one that my build was super unoptimized to regenerate health, so that when I got my ass kicked, I could just run in a circle for 30 minutes and just then get another whack in. I'm not going to win quickly, fancily, or with any style points, but I'm going to get through this damn game.
The stall build for Dark Souls, I like it. Just I don't care how long it takes.
I don't have anywhere to be, and I'm going to use that to my advantage. Star Citizen has a big update coming out, and I like Star Citizen on paper, and sometimes they put out a good update, and I like the updates, but then sometimes they'll just put an update and break the game entirely, so I'm cautiously optimistic about that one. But no, in terms of upcoming stuff, I think it's just Halo at the moment, really.
Yeah, I mean, understandable. It's crazy to think that that's actually only like a month away. I mean, it got delayed for basically an entire year, so.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at the trailer from last year to now, the difference is frankly just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad that other developers learned from the Cyberpunk launch. You can have a bad launch and you can recover, but it's a lot easier to delay the game and then have a good launch.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, like there's a fine line to walk, I guess, between calling like a lot of gamers entitled and that kind of stuff and delivering a good product. But I do feel like people need to be more patient. If just like it seems like people have learned from the Cyberpunk, like everybody wanted that to come out. It came out a hot mess. And personally, I did actually enjoy Cyberpunk quite a bit, but I also was fortunate to play it on PC and not console, where a lot of the other problems were. So
really, I think trying to make that backwards compatible onto the older console generation, I think that's what created most of these problems to begin with.
I mean, at the very least, it's where most of the problems ended up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, not a question at all. That one carried the weight. But no, I'm glad developers aren't afraid to say, "Hey, we need a little bit more time on this. It's not what we want you to have yet. You deserve better." I mean, Final Fantasy XIV just delayed, and it's only 2 weeks. And frankly, if they think they need that 2 weeks, by all means, I'm glad they did it. Which, I play Final Fantasy XIV more or less just for the plot line at this point. I'm not big into the end game content, but honestly, that's a success story right there. Of you can have a bad launch and recover from it, because goddamn. That older Final Fantasy content.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's almost, especially with, I feel like the ones that make it work the most, I feel like, are like games as a service model. Because I mean, you've got like Final Fantasy 14, which isn't really games as a service per se, but it was an MMO, so it was always planned to have a very long shelf life.
Yeah, I think that MMOs inherently are the progenitor to the games as a service.
Right.
Model.
Then there's, of course, No Man's Sky, which I personally have played and is fantastic. I haven't played it for like a year now, but even just a year ago, it was fantastic, which I think it released like
I keep it
4 years
installed.
ago.
I want to go back to it, but it's because I played it last year, but I know it's like once I hit play, I'm gonna sink like 60 to 70 hours in there, and I don't think I have those on hand at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games that kind of just like sucks you in, and like like it never feels like there's the right time to play it, at least for me.
Exactly. It's like, do I have a 4-day weekend and no social engagements? Okay, maybe. Especially because they added to like settlement management now. Oh my god, optimizing that's going to take me a while. Like I want to do it, don't get me wrong, but the logistics involved it's like One Piece. It's like, oh, do I have these man hours?
Like, I know I'm going to enjoy this
to get me into this,
but I have something that will take a lot less time that I also know I will enjoy. So is the enjoyment from the long thing worth the sacrifice? It's all about the struggles of gaming and consuming anime. But yeah, there's another one I think that is a fairly good success story that started terribly. I can't remember. I kind of wanted to say Fallout 76, but I don't feel like that's quite on the same level as the other ones. I've heard it's good. I haven't personally played it. But
if you would have put it at the start of the list as a suck to success, yeah. But once you bring Final Fantasy 14 and No Man's Sky, and no, it
misses the bar on this. Yeah,
it's like an honorable mention at best if you start there.
Like I said, I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But just in terms of going back to games that we're looking forward to, I am also definitely, I would say, cautiously optimistic on Halo Infinite. I personally was less than thrilled with Halo 5, but Halo is kind of, I don't know if I would say it's the game that kind of most drastically got me into gaming, but it's definitely in like the top 5 as far as like formative games for me. So I've always had a soft spot for the franchise.
For a lot of people, I think Halo's one of the first games that made playing games a social experience.
Yeah, the number of times I've invited people over to my Dyson Sphere to play Halo, that was definitely a social experience.
I mean, outside of like the little weird modding sessions that me and my friends had with Morrowind, that was still a single player experience. We were just showing off what neat things that we had copy and pasted from more clever people, more or less. Halo was the first time where it's like, okay, we're doing a thing together simultaneously, and I need you to carry your weight, so help me God if we have to play the library again because you do not carry your weight. No milk and cookies afterwards.
Oh, the library. Classic game design. Definitely should be repeated. No, I'm just kidding.
Repeated more so than it was repeated. I'm pretty sure just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, 6 levels up, and then just throw more enemies. It's honestly like me making an armor mission.
There you go. So just keep with it for another decade, and then you'll create a defining game franchise. But
I hope not. That sounds like a lot of work.
But yeah, just repeated rooms fighting an extremely annoying to fight enemy. That is like the only thing it does is run at you. But
and occasionally there's one at the end of a long hallway with a rocket launcher just to send you back to the next checkpoint, or the last checkpoint.
God, it's funny that I remember that literally exact like hallway. I will forever have that hallway burned into my memory because of that damn rocket launcher.
Peek, throw a grenade, get back down the hole.
Yep. It's like, the rocket launcher dead? You explode? Okay, the guy with the rocket launcher did not get killed that time.
Yeah, it's... You enter that hallway, 3 things happen. He hits launch, rocket hits you, ambulance hits 60 going down the pavement.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Halo Infinite. I hope it's good. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with the story because I feel like the comparison I can kind of make here is to the modern Star Wars movies trilogy, because it's like I feel like the Halo 4 of this, they had an idea where they wanted to go, and then people were kind of lukewarm on that. They didn't hate it, but it wasn't like super good. And then Halo 5 like went fucking all over the damn place. Everybody hated that. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people hated that. And so now it's like, Halo, what did they do for Halo 6?
I understand why people hated Halo 5, but I think part of the problem, which I'm loath to call it a problem, I think part of the reason people didn't like Halo 5 is because Halo 5 started to introduce a lot more of the expanded universe stuff into the direct canon. And some people were like, ew, what is this new stuff? I don't like it. Take it away. When a lot of it was stuff that had been fairly well pre-established. I mean, rampancy in AIs wasn't covered in any of the original games, really, but in the first set of books that were released after Halo 1 that were setting up for Halo 2, they're immediately talking about, like, Cortana has a very set 7 years is the longest that an AI can safely operate. So anyone who really, like, dived into that, the deep end of the pool after Halo 1 and Halo 2, kind of saw this coming in the cards eventually. So I personally didn't dislike Halo 5, but I understand why some people didn't, because it introduces a lot of things just out of the blue, it feels, if you don't know any of the other like things going on.
Yeah, I could see that. I think personally with Halo 5, because I actually when I first played through Halo 4, I was a bit lukewarm on it, but looking back on Halo 4, I don't mind it as much. I feel like was actually a pretty decent setup. But my problems with Halo 5 are that I don't feel like it capitalizes on the setup of Halo 4 as well as it could. Primarily, I don't want to say that I hate Locke as a character, but I don't feel like Locke was nearly as good as he could have been. The conflict between Locke and Master Chief was terrible. just like it,
Yeah,
like
it could have been handled so much better.
like I don't mind that the conflict was there, but yeah, it's just like it could have been done in a way that was so much better, and it just feels like it was. Like, it feels like there was so much more that was cut out of the game, essentially, to kind of further elaborate on getting to this conflict point.
Yeah. Are you familiar with, like, have you seen any of the expanded universe stuff for that?
With 5, no, specifically. I did read the original Halo books, The Fall of Reach, The Flood, and...
okay.
Crap, I don't remember the name of the third one. Whatever the third one was.
First Strike.
First Strike.
Blood, yeah.
And Fall of Reach were the first 3.
Yeah, Locke was originally introduced as an Oni operative, I believe, actually.
Oh wait, so I do think. Sorry to interrupt you, but I do think I watched Nightfall or whatever that like short series was that featured Locke.
Yeah. But from there, it did kind of put him into a central casted role, and a lot of people didn't really buy the Spartan 4s being on par physically with Spartan 2s from the get-go. And I feel like 4 and 5 didn't really do anything to dispel that notion that people had. Because the 2s were gods walking amongst men's, and the 3s were formidable still. But the 4s, you never really saw them as anything more as just ODSTs or Marines with fancier armor. And 4 and 5, I don't think really did a great job establishing just how formidable they are supposed to be. And I think that's why a lot of that conflict between Blue Team and Fire Team Osiris is just falls flat.
Yeah, that's definitely a contributing factor. It's funny because I'm thinking about the 3s. Like, I think I read another book that actually featured the 3s too. I can't remember what it was called. It had to do with the Shield world. Getting into Halo lore at this point, but
Onyx, I think.
I'm
here for it.
But well, it's more just like I'm sure anybody listening that doesn't know anything about Halo is probably just like, what the heck are these guys talking about?
Yes, we've officially taken something that everyone knows and we have filtered it down to 4 people knowing exactly what we're talking about.
Yep. But that's okay. That's why I like getting people's different perspective. It's good to have somebody to talk to about this, because I don't think I've literally ever talked to about the Ghost of Onyx to anybody. But I do think I remember reading that one.
About in-depth Halo lore for hours, hands down.
It's funny thinking that like the way the 3s were portrayed in that one versus the way they were portrayed in Halo Reach, because the way the 3s were portrayed in Ghost of Onyx is kind of like you were saying the 4s and 5s were, where they were literally just like glorified ODSTs, because the 3s, like, they land on Onyx or whatever and they like all get fucking wiped out. Like they just all die.
And that's the crazy part about Ghosts of Onyx, is because those are that's Gamma Company, which are like technically the best of the 3s. So, just as a refresher for you, because you've cleared the books, there was Alpha Company, Beta Company, and then Gamma Company. Alpha and Beta were wiped out in suicide missions. More as a standard. Gamma Company, though, the trainer for the program was a Spartan 2 that was kidnapped by Colonel Ackerson, the shadowy antagonist that I don't think we ever actually see anywhere. He's somehow the worst Dr. Halsey. But the Spartan in charge of the 3s program felt so guilty about how they were wasted that he wanted to just try and give them just a little bit more of an edge, so more than 2 of them might survive. So he started doping them with illegal drugs. Like
pretty standard stuff.
Like degradation of the frontal lobe to make them hyper-aware, hyper-aggressive, and resistant to shock. In there's one particular scene where one of the Spartan 3s comes back, like missing half of his chest, and Halsey's like, "What the fuck is wrong with this child? It should be dead. Like, there's nothing here that's survivable. What have you done?" And one, dark, because it's like a 16-year-old kid. But even worse is the reason they're on Onyx is actually that is the best of Gamma Company. They're the ones that they decide we don't want to waste these on a suicide mission. They're going to go on to be like kill teams later on, like Noble 6 or Noble Team. So they're the best of the Gamma Company, and they're just dropping like flies, which is frankly, I think it was supposed to speak more with how lethal Onyx was, because Noble Team was all threes, and George was clearly the best of them. Except
I think George was a 2, actually.
George was a 2. That's why he was deferred to so much, I think.
Right.
Because the team dynamic changes as soon as he dies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he dies in like a way, like they kill him off in a way where he sacrifices himself, not the enemy killing him, just to like illustrate the fact that they couldn't kill the 2 nearly as easily as they could kill the others.
Exactly. So yeah, Ghost of Onyx was a weird book with what it established in lore. Also, because technically most of the Spartan 4s, I think, are actually Spartan 3s, because the Spartan 3s got rolled into the 4 program because Gamma Company never actually deployed. Alpha was sent after like a shipyard, Beta was sent after like a fuel refinery. All of them died except for, I think, maybe 10 Spartan 3s, and then most of Gamma Company. And that makes it kind of a weird spot in the lore.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was also a weird spot in the time of Halo too, because I mean, I think at that point like ODST was out. I don't think Reach had come out yet, so it's like the expanded universe for Halo was not as complex, I guess I could say, as it is nowadays, where especially like the Bungie has moved on from the series, and they needed something to do after Halo 3 ended.
It's actually funny. I was actually just watching a documentary on Bungie producing Halo 3 and how they're like, yep, this is the last one. We're going to go back to being independent. And then Microsoft's like, we own you for X number of years and we expect 3 Halo games. Finish Halo 3 and then give us 2 more. And that's why we got ODST and Reach.
Yep, I remember. I think I remember watching the vid docs for Halo 3, but I also remember, that reminds me of a video. I want to say the YouTuber who did it, his name is Racevic, I think. He did some really good reflections on the Halo series, and he talks about how like the origins of ODST and Reach were like, Bungie didn't originally plan on doing them, and then they were like, actually, no, you need to do these games. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we can do like a Halo Recon thing, and then I guess we can go back to Reach.
Yep, that's pretty much exactly how it went.
But anyway, just kind of tying that back all into Halo 5, I do agree in the sense that like the 4s and 5s, like especially in the games, never really felt like they earned their place, I guess. Like, sure, you could. There might be expanded books, because Ghost of Onyx was the last Halo book I read, so maybe in some of the other books they do kind of earn their place. But at least in the game specifically, because like even the 3s in Halo Reach, you play as a 3, and you feel like the 3s definitely have, or at least I personally remember the 3s a lot more fondly because of that than I do the 4s and 5s.
Definitely, and I think part of it is the generation that consisted of like Noble Team. Again, these are all orphans that have literally only grown up in like a military environment during their last like formative years before adulthood. Whereas with the Spartan 4s, you're introducing one, primarily full-grown adults, and then essentially giving them superpowers. And that's, don't get me wrong, I can see why people don't like that, because you're comparing them to essentially like a demigod previously, and now you've got someone who is quite mortal with godlike powers, and that's not quite. It's not quite as heroic. They don't embody heroism as much as we originally think. I mean, look at Buck, played by the lovable Nathan Fillion.
Buck is an exception. I'll give him that.
He's a bit of a fuckboy. Love him to death, but like he has human wants and desires. He's not a killing machine. He's a human with a power. He's super durable. He's faster, stronger in every way. But at the end of the day, he's still crushing on the Oni operative from Halo ODST. He's probably going to go to the bar. He's probably going to have a couple drinks with his pals at the end of the day. he's very human. But that's not necessarily who we want to play as when we're playing as these Spartans. Master Chief was 7 when he was brought into the program, and Noble Team were all, at best, 13 to 15 years old when they were brought into the program. They grew up in this environment, whereas, hell, Buck may have been a cab driver before he was an ODST. I don't know.
The good old Saving Private Ryan story is actually an English teacher before he went to war.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's why people don't like the Force, is because they remind us too much of us.
That's an interesting perspective.
Or at least me. I don't know how many other stars you know that are looking at things through the lens of a Spartan Force.
That's true. Like I said, I don't really talk about in-depth Halo lore with a lot of other people, so I've yet to meet other stars, but I'm thinking, like, it's an interesting perspective, because maybe that, admittedly, I haven't really thought too deeply about why I dislike the 4s and 5s as much as I do. Like, I just kind of accept that I don't like them. But I kind of relating to the human elements, I don't know if that's it for me, just because of the fact that I did kind of like where they were going with the Halo, with Chief losing Cortana, and kind of him having to deal with his more human elements at the ending of 4 and kind of the beginning of 5. But then they bring Cortana back. Spoilers for Halo 5, which has been out for quite a while, so sorry, but I don't like that they brought her back.
Because whereas I think in Halo 1, Cortana was plugged into the system and saw the Halo array for what it was, a weapon that just exterminates life. And Chief was then always on the back foot, kind of catching up. Whereas this time around, I think she's technically referred to as the weapon, is the naive one that doesn't understand how anything is working out here in the broad galaxy. And now, instead of Cortana telling the Chief, here's how things are, it's the Chief teaching this new AI how things are. And I kind of like that reversal of role.
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm interested to see that. I do like that. I'm talking about the actual Cortana that gets brought back at the ending of 5, where she, like, tries to kill the Chief, or, like, save, or not kill the Chief, but, like, preserve the Chief while she kills everybody else.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Cortana that we see in Halo Infinite, which...
No, I'm interested to see where that goes. Like, I'm admittedly intrigued by that storyline, and if they do kind of have that, like, Chief as a mentor for this quote-unquote new Cortana, I like that, at least conceptually. We'll see if it executes well, but conceptually I like it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about in 5, where Cortana just, like, appears again, and I don't think they ever really explain how she beat rampancy, at least in that game. Maybe they will in Infinite, but at least as a self-contained story in 5, she just appears.
I don't think she beat rampancy. I don't remember which book they go into it on, but an AI, when it starts going rampant, can actually start, like, shedding bits of its programming off that's corrupted, kind of like how DNA sheds telomeres off the ends there. You still have the degradation, but it can prolong its life that way. Yeah. And I think that's what's going on with Cortana, essentially, is just shedding bits of programming that she doesn't deem as important to preserve, just to free up space.
Yeah, that's true. It could be like a partition of her, I guess, or whatever.
Oh, she makes so many fucking partitions of herself throughout all the books. Like, in First Strike alone, like, we're barely out of Halo 1, and you're reading the book how she's making it just a partition of a partition of a partition to do a super specified task, because there's no other AI around that can do it. But you have to send an away team over there. The like dilated lag between her updating something and it updating something, there's too much of a risk. And she's blatantly saying, like, yeah, this is going to shave off like 3 years of my lifespan. Just like, how are we going to get to Halo 3 at this rate? Because so far, by my math, you've burned up most of the hard drive space, Cortana. What the fuck?
Don't worry, we'll be fine. None of this will be explained in the game, so you won't have to worry about it.
Exactly. None of it's explained in the game, and then just Halo 4, it's like, oh, she's getting a little loopy, and then Halo 5, she's gone insane. You gotta put her down.
So maybe I will end up appreciating 5 after Infinite has come out. Maybe they'll find a way to kind of wrap that all together. I personally don't really see a good way to do it, but
I don't think so, because a lot of the parts that are foundational to 5, AI rampancy, Spartan 4s being who they are, that's never covered. I think the sour taste from 5 is going to persist, because as someone who knows what was going on in the background, I understand it, and it was at best lukewarm, mediocre.
Yeah, like I said, I think, I didn't. I think I did say that I hated Halo 5, but like, there's parts of 5 that I did like. It's just overall, I guess 5 is kind of a disappointment to me, because I feel like 4 set up something that could have been good. 5 kind of derailed it, and now it's 6's job not to just give us a thrilling conclusion, kind of like 3. Like, if you think about the original Halo trilogy, like 3's only real job was to like just come out and be awesome. Now 6 has to come out and not only be awesome, but also like fix 5.
Exactly, yeah, and that's going to be a hard task, because really, going back to the documentary I watched recently, Halo 3 was pretty much plotted out almost before Halo 2 ended. They had things that they wanted to end for Halo 2, and they just had to cut for time. Right. And then eventually, it's okay, we are going to do a Halo 3. It has been confirmed. It's like, okay, well, we know what we need to wrap up still. Like, here are the threads, we need to tie them up. And there was some back and forth about, like, tone that they wanted to set. They did change some of the plot there, but they knew where they wanted to end up. Frankly, 4 could have been a self-contained story. 5 was the setup to something else, and I'm not sure. That's not how I would set up an act structure, personally.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I don't...
A 3-part act. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think they meant to do it that way either, because if I'm remembering correctly, 4 was meant to be the setup, but then everybody from the team like left, not either by choice or because they were let go. So they had to bring in like a completely new team for 5 again, which changed the story. So they ended up kind of messing up the whole arc.
Exactly, yeah. Because, I mean, I don't know, it's weird. You had the Didact in 4, and he's a huge player throughout a bunch of the books, and then you wrap up his plot in 4.
Yeah, they were setting him up to be like an arc villain, and then he just gets murked.
Yeah. And then in more books, they're setting up a Jul Mdama to be like the next big pusher and mover. And then mission 1, we've got a target dealing arms, Jul Mdama, and bam, take him down.
Yep.
Right off the bat, it's like, okay, what do we have left? Well, there's Cortana floating around. I guess that's our villain now.
Yeah, well,
that big of a problem in 4 wasn't really a problem in the previous 3 games.
That reminds me, another big thing, like, this wasn't so much plot-wise as it was gameplay-wise. Plot-wise, it was still kind of meh, but with the Warden fights were also pretty rough in 5. Like, I remember somebody was joking that, like, so all right, so we're making a new Halo game. What should we put into this one? Oh, I remember those. Remember back in Halo 2, how everybody really loved boss fights. That was like their favorite thing in Halo 2. Let's bring that back, but let's just have it be the same boss fight like 6 times, because that's what people will really love in games.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So we were talking about boss fights. Yeah. Like I said, that's admittedly not my joke. Somebody mentioned the Halo 2 boss fights to me, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember the boss fights being like one of the worst parts of Halo 2, and then they put it in Halo 5 as well. But yeah, it's just like I said, that plot one, I didn't care. I think he was called the Warden, I think is what he was.
I think that was it, yeah.
Like, I don't even really, like, I remember he had something to do with like protecting Cortana or whatever, but I don't really remember his relevance to the plot. It was mostly just the fact that you do that same boss fight, and it's also like, are there any shooters where boss fights are like actually have been done well? Like,
well, I think Bungie as a whole would like to say yeah, and then point back at the Destiny franchise, because I think that is just, you know,
yeah, I mean, that kind of varies, but yeah, there are good boss fights in that one.
I would say that the good boss fights are more the exception in that one still.
Yeah.
Fighting one of the giant sized like Kells is only fun, I'd say, like maybe the first half of the first one, and then every time you do it afterwards is just annoying. You're gonna do damage, he's gonna disappear, he's gonna shift 5 feet to the left, reappear, and then be invincible. Until you do another arbitrary thing on the field somewhere, then he's vulnerable, you shoot him for 20 seconds, then he turns invisible, shifts 5 feet to the left, and you repeat the process for about 45 minutes.
That's gameplay right there. That sounds like a winner.
Yes.
So yeah, but kind of just wrap. I don't want to spend the whole time complaining about Halo 5 so before it turns into that. I will just. That's kind of my thoughts, and I'm hoping that Halo Infinite is going to be good. Like I said, I do still have a soft spot for the franchise. I've been a little apprehensive about Halo as of late, but I did get a chance to do the test. What was it called? The technical preview or something like that. That was what it was called.
Something like that, yeah.
I did get a chance to play around in the multiplayer on that, and it was a lot of fun. I sucked at it a lot more than I usually do at Halo, which is a little depressing, but that might just be that's more of a me problem than
to have those twitch reflexes just slowly eroding.
Well, like part of it, I think, yeah, it's just I'm not as experienced in the shooters as I used to be, but I think it's also the gameplay has changed a fair bit because it's definitely not like. Halo has always kind of felt the same. Like they've definitely made improvements over the years, but for the most part, once you got into Halo, like I've been consistently good throughout Halo's multiplayer ever since I got good at it in 3, and now I suck all of a sudden in Halo Infinite. So like part of it might be me, but I do feel like the game has also changed a fair bit.
I'll tell you right now, it's 100% me when it comes to my failings.
I'm in denial.
I used to be whore for the sniper rifle, and now I pick it up and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? What are these hands? They don't remember anything.
Yeah, maybe it's just a PC versus console thing, because that has also changed for me.
Maybe. See, that's why I like going to Arma, because you take a shot in Halo and you expect it to be a headshot. You take a shot in Arma and it's like 100 yards and you hit him in the head in the first time with a sniper rifle and your whole team's just like, wow, you're like a professional sniper and you feel good about yourself.
Now I'm just thinking, I did try, I played Arma a little bit. I have also tried Operation Flashpoint. I remember the first time I tried Operation Flashpoint, I kind of hated it because I've always been more of a Halo Call of Duty Battlefield shooter person or star. Yeah. And the actually kind of making the transition to quote unquote more realistic engagements was like, I can't even see where I'm getting shot at from. I see like a blip way the hell out there. I guess I'll take a tiny little shot. Okay, well that hit the ground, so this just is entertaining.
Yeah, it was all right when I was younger because the editor engine. It's fun now that I'm old because it's like, okay, I don't necessarily need to have the fastest reflex because we're going to exchange fire before either side dials it in. I can get into cover and I can take my time on this.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Before we leave Halo in the dust, because we talked about it for so long, I did have one kind of theory question for you, and that was whether or not you think they're going to kill off the Master Chief in Halo Infinite, or have him die at the end of the story. Not necessarily like have him get killed off, but
okay. I don't think they're going to, for financial reasons. Not until 343 Industries has something else that they can reliably hang their hat on, and with Noble 6 dying at the end of Reach, and the Rookie dying in a book.
God, I hated that.
You kind of. Oh. I could talk for another 45 minutes about how angry I am about that one, but I'm not taking that bait.
When you thought it, I immediately just filled with rage, so I feel like I had to say something.
Yeah. The closest you have left to a protagonist is Locke, or potentially Buck. They'll never use Buck because Nathan Fillion shines when he is his own separate character, And frankly,
it's also just really expensive.
Yeah. There's a reason they killed Cade 6.
I mean, Cade 6, and they also had to redo the Ghost in Destiny 1 because Peter Dinklage wasn't able to come back.
Yeah. Which is a shame because I really liked Dinklebot way better.
Moving
on though, Locke. I don't think Locke's going to be able to carry the franchise, frankly, because the Spartan 4s were introduced so poorly. On paper, they're supposed to be as good as a Spartan 2, but when 75% of your fan base doesn't think that because you've never shown it in the game, then why would they believe it now? And are you really going to risk a multi-million-dollar franchise that the foundation of first-person shooters as we know it on one character that half of your community actively hates? Probably not. I think the Master Chief's going to stay around for a while, or maybe Brohammer's going to be like the breakout act of the century. I don't know, but I don't think they're going to kill. I don't think they're going to kill Chief off in Infinite.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same mind. The reason I ask is because it's a fairly popular fan theory at the moment, and it does kind of. They have dropped some hints. I unfortunately do not know of any off the top of my head because like I said, I kind of try and avoid trailers, but I've seen a little bit of stuff that has got me with the feeling that they probably won't kill him off, but I do think they might end his story, like actually end it this time in this one. So it'll be curious, even if they don't kill him off, it is kind of a curious question to see where they go. And yeah, Locke specifically with him would have to do a lot of heavy lifting in 6. I feel like to justify him as a main character moving forward. Because it's funny because I want to make the complaint that he has the characterization of a cardboard box, even with the little mini series that he got. But it does kind of feel weird to complain about that when you think about the fact that the Master Chief doesn't have a ton of character in the games either. But for some reason, he's so much more likable than Locke is.
And going back to the very beginning of this discussion, I think it's because the Master Chief is a blank slate that you can project positive traits onto. No one canonically knows what he looks like under the helmet, at least in terms of the player base. Right. So, in a way, he's simultaneously a stand-in, and he's also a more idealized version of the player. He's the action star that we know we could be, if we had the motivation to be.
Motivation and drugs and war and all the other stuff. But
exactly, yes. It could be any one of us. I mean, even his name, John, super generic. And that was an intentional design to make him more relatable to the player.
Yeah, maybe it just comes down to vanity, I guess.
It's all one-liners and occasionally asking, what? What do you mean? To a more articulate AI that's going to then explain the plot to you.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's funny because I feel like Locke is still generic enough that, and I mean he was a player character for a lot of 5, but there's something about it that just he has just enough characterization to be annoying. maybe that's it. He has just enough characterization to not be that blank slate.
It's because he has a face. If you never saw his face, he'd be a perfectly fine stand-in. But the fact that you see a face, he then has his own identity that you can't put your own notions onto. It's too concrete, and then there's nothing there, so you don't like him. It's the weird case of just a little bit too much characterization where people can't fill in the gaps on their own. Yeah,
maybe. I could definitely. I'm trying to think because my first thought to that though is that I don't know. I really liked Geralt. If we play as him.
Well, because Geralt is a fantastic character and has multiple.
Yeah, but Geralt is
books
way better written than Locke, which is,
Locke is. It's. On one hand, you have a completely silent protagonist like Noble Six. People love Noble Six.
Right.
Then you start crossing that valley and you hit the low point. That's where Locke is, where they have a confirmed identity, but they don't have they have no real story to attach the player to. And then you climb up the other side of the valley and you have Geralt of Rivia, who has a fucking laundry list of achievements, personality traits, ex-lovers, a kid that he adopted somewhere. Don't even really talk about that in his most popular game too much. Just, oh, he has this. He's got a surly grandfather figure. He's got a musician that he maybe likes, maybe hates. It's hard to tell. And he's got a very vibrant social life, frankly. And that in turn makes him a real character. He's a real person at that point. Locke occasionally hangs out with taller Nathan Fillion.
Have you seen anything about him in Halo Infinite? Now I'm thinking about it, because I haven't really. Is he even going to be in it? It's like
I don't know. There's more we could talk about, but we've gone on Halo for, I think, half of this segment, and I don't want to spoil anything that is from the trailers. But I don't think we're going to see Locke or Buck or... So far, all we've confirmed is 2 Marines and a PTSD-suffering Pelican pilot. So.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't talked about Halo for probably far too long. It's just like I keep thinking of different things. Like I was also just thinking right there, like whether or not Blue Team is going to show up again. Because having read the first couple books and knowing who they are, I did actually. That is one thing I did like about 5 was seeing them again. And I kind of hope they return in Infinite, but I don't think I've seen anything about them returning either. So,
if you haven't read any of the books, who the fuck is Blue Team?
Blue Team are the go play Halo 5. That's I would say that's all you need to know. Really, you should read. Just go read the books and then play Halo 5, and you'll learn who Blue Team is. That's where we'll end that.
I'd say you could read the books and then watch a YouTube summary of 5.
Yeah, even better.
To fight the Warden again.
Even better. Blue Team are the other Spartans that totally existed the whole time while Master Chief was being called the last Spartan. That's.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, so getting out of the Halo and kind of winding things down here. I do only have a couple other things, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I was a little curious if you had a specific VTuber inspiration that, like you talked about, wanting to do a whole live application. That's kind of what got you into VTubing in the first place. But I was curious if there was another VTuber, or like was it whole live in general, that kind of inspired the decision to make the leap.
So I saw Kizuna Ai when she entered the stage, but at the time I just thought, oh, that's just a fancy animation and someone shitposting. Which isn't far from the truth, but it's a little bit more reductionist than is honest. Right. And then a bunch of my weebier friends were talking about Hololive. I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? And I watched Calliope Mori's stream and realized a couple things. One, oh wow, this is the future of I think entertainment, at least to some degree, because the amount of privacy this gives. And 2, oh, good. There are boomers in this field, technology boomers in this field. I could potentially do this. So I guess, and she's my biggest inspiration, because she showed you don't have to be great at games. You can, in fact, be an internet dinosaur at a number of years old, and also she does great music, frankly. So the triple threat.
Yes, very, very talented. Mora is definitely one. Mora, I think, Callie might be one of the first ones that I saw as well. I mean, I kind of jumped in on Hololive English like a lot of people, so I saw all of them. Yeah, but
I saw like occasional clips of a Japanese dog talking about fingers occasionally.
Ubies, I think really, you mean.
Without context, yes. Without context, what is that? Like, realistically speaking, remove yourself from this community entirely. Pretend you are a middle-class, middle American looking at Twitter and you see a dog talking about taking your fingers. What do you do with that information? You move on.
I was going to say, you say, that's enough internet for the day, and you walk away.
to get back to your job, you're not paid to browse Twitter. Exactly. Yeah. So no, it was Hololive English definitely showed me what it could be without the complexities of a language and culture barrier that the Japanese talents did not break through at the time.
Yeah, I like that. It's a bit more of a unique take on but mixed in with the combined thing that I think got a lot of people, like the fact that it's Halloween, but also the fact that you saw Callie struggle with technology, and that was kind of what allowed you to realize, like, hey, even people that suck at this can be kind of good at it. So
Exactly.
Admittedly, speaking from a viewer perspective, it is often more entertaining to watch people kind of suck at something than it is like. I've talked about it before, I think even on the show with other people, but it's kind of an awkward spot when you're like just good enough at a game to like be able to clear it easily, but not like pro level, because you're like in this no man's land of people like to watch people really suck at games or be like pro level at games. It's not quite as entertaining to watch people just kind of be averagely good at games.
As someone who started streaming at the start of the PUBG craze, you've described me to an accuracy that kind of hurts.
Well, makes you feel any better. I literally have this thought about myself.
we're in the same solar system, so to speak. Then,
yeah, that's my self-reflection talking there. That's how I came to this conclusion. Okay, well, we talked a ton about Halo, which was not a part of the plan, but I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I don't have a ton of people that I get to talk about Halo with, so for all of those listening,
if you want to talk about it, let me know.
Absolutely.
There's not a time of day that I won't talk about this.
For everybody listening, I apologize that if maybe it was. I hope it was interesting to you, even if you're not really that into Halo. I hope it was fun to listen to, or maybe you skipped it and you're now just reaching the end, which is also totally fine. Welcome back.
Welcome to the end of the ride.
Yes, but we always end off with one question, and it's more of an advice question for our audience. So at least maybe they'll get something out of this. If you'd like to leave the audience with one thing, maybe a shout out or a piece of advice, whatever it would like to be, what would it be?
The advice that I would give is not from a VTubing perspective, but from a just streaming in general as a face streamer previously. Know your limits. Don't overextend yourself too much to try and put out content. If you can only do like 2 or 3 streams a week, do it. Don't try and go for 5 days a week if it's going to like negatively impact your health, because eventually you're not going to be able to keep that up, and then people are going to ask, well, why did you cut back? Find something realistic that you can do and stick with that. You'll be much better off in the long term, and no one will really notice if you don't stream 5 days a week if you never streamed 5 days a week.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I know when I first started out, it definitely seemed like everybody was telling me like, oh, you need to be streaming constantly, like every single day. Every time you're not streaming, you're not growing. And it's just like, I get uncomfortable when I'm streaming more than like 3 times a week. Like it doesn't seem like it's worth it. There's so many other things I could be doing, like prepping streams or doing other content or recording podcasts like this. So even though there's always stuff you can be doing, you don't necessarily need to be streaming all the time. So I really like that advice. Yeah. Well,
go ahead.
I was going to close things out. So if you've got anything else you'd like to say, go for it.
No, it's just, well, it's the same thing. There's other things you can do. You can work on overlays. The live content is a huge part of it, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you actually, like, people say like, oh, you need to be streaming to grow, but it's actually like you grow through doing the other stuff outside of streaming. Like you're actually not growing while you're streaming, because partly, at least on Twitch, because I've ranted about many times before, discoverability is not so great there. So doing the other stuff, it also can, at least for me, kind of helps keep me sane and keeps things diverse.
Exactly.
Okay, well, Rigel, it's been a ton of fun talking to you. Like we said, the Halo was unexpected, but it was a lot of fun. I know you've been very busy lately with Arma stuff. We didn't even cover all the Arma stuff.
We talked about like twice in passing.
But I'm looking forward to see where that goes. I'm looking forward to the other stuff that you're able to return to streaming with. And thank you very much for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you all out there for listening to this. And as always, stay shiny.